When you try to spy from a satellite, you have a very narrow window of time.
These people have no idea what kind of capabilities are out there. They think this thing isn't collecting anything that Google Earth hasn't collected yet. What do you think that spy balloon was?
What do I think it was?
Yeah.
So my suspicion is that the whole spy balloon concept is decades old. Everybody uses them because it makes sense. A satellite, when you try to spy from a satellite, you have a very narrow window of time when the satellite is on target, right? Because the satellite's going around the Earth and the Earth is here. So when the satellite is over where you need it to be, that's your only window to capture. And then you don't get another capture window until they come back around again. So if there's cloud cover, if it's nighttime, if there's anything wrong, they don't get the image, right? So you're blind for most of the cycles of that satellite. A balloon has a long loiter time, and it moves with predominant winds. So you can basically predict when a balloon is going to be in a certain part of the planet based on predominant wind patterns, altitude, et cetera, and it will loiter there moving at, 70 knots? Like, that's slow. So it'll just stay there forever, taking pictures and sending information. For sure, we use balloons. I've never seen one. I've never heard of one. It just makes technical sense. High probability, low confidence, right? We would use balloons all over the world because you can fly them at 70,000 feet. Nobody really cares that they're there. They don't know if it's a spy balloon or a research balloon or a weather balloon. They don't have a big radar cross-section. So it makes perfect sense to me that Russia's got balloons out there, Iran's got balloons out there, China's got balloons out there. Germany, France, the UK, Italy, they all have balloons out there. And there would be poor or little to no national or international tracking of these balloons. So they're out there. We've always known that they're out there, but we never really saw it as an issue until, for whatever reason, that first Chinese spy balloon broke into American airspace and kind of woke up the administration to say, hey, maybe we should think about this. Maybe we should do something about this. Mm-hmm. And if you recall, it was like 5 or 7 days before they decided to shoot it down. And then for the next 3, they shot it down the next day.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure we hit it, hopefully, with some type of a energy weapon, a EW wave or whatever before it came into our borders. But, you know, as far as the capabilities of what was on there, I mean, do you think that it was only just imagery?
Oh, no way.
Because I did a little segment on this a while back, and what I realized was these people have no idea what kind of capabilities are out there.
Right.
And they think this thing isn't collecting anything that Google Earth hasn't collected yet. And when I saw that in the comments, I was like, oh man.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, what are they going to get that they can't get off Google Earth? And it's like, I just don't
That's exactly what they want you to think.
Yeah, I don't know how I mean, let's go over some of the capabilities that could have been on there.
For sure. Okay, so if you think of just the first balloon, if you look at pictures of the first balloon, which is a great place to start, just if you Google, you know, pictures of this Chinese spy balloon, and you'll see pictures of it. It was a box. Some say it was the size of a bus. Some say it was the size of, you know, a suitcase. The box itself was most likely the size of a suitcase, maybe 2 suitcases, right? The size of a satellite, essentially. And then it had these 2 large solar arrays off to the side, collecting energy from the sun to power all the functions on the box. And then it had at least 2, possibly 4 dishes that were directional dishes that were mounted to the main box. Just by looking at that, there's a couple things that you know for a fact, right? First, you know that it had to be powered externally. So it wasn't a battery that it was carrying. If it was a battery, it would be designed to run until the battery died. It needed solar power for continuous operations. So that takes money, that takes engineering, that takes time, that takes effort. That's not a weather balloon. University of Michigan is not putting up a weather balloon that looks like that. You know what I mean? Second, it had those directional dishes. Directional dishes are designed to pick up localized transmissions and transmit focused transmissions. That's what the shape of the dish is for, right? So if you have dish TV, it's there so that you can send and receive a very narrow band message. So 4 dishes gives it the opportunity to collect 4 different targets at one time, or potentially collect 3 different targets at one time and transmit on a 4th. But there's a 2-way transmission and reception mode there. So, and this is just what we see on the outside. If there were, there were very likely to be signals intelligence collection applications inside, right? Small antenna, round bulbous antenna on the underside or on the backside of the satellite dish or on the backside of the spy balloon. Those would be used for wide spectrum SIGINT collection, signals collection. So they could be collecting signals that were being encrypted and transmitted from one military base to another, from one CIA base to another. They could be signals connected to pretty much anything you mean. Like they could be signals collecting on a certain frequency in the Wi-Fi network that they know is being used by the president, or that they know is being used by senators or business people or who knows what. So essentially that satellite, that balloon, was a giant sponge collecting signals, radio waves, cellular waves, imagery, thermal imagery, infrared imagery, day and nighttime, right? And then also having the real-time ability to transmit that information back to another location, potentially even to another balloon. Also, the balloons could have been transmitting signals to each other, acting as a series of relays back to a main home base. So a balloon over the United States, a balloon over Canada, a balloon over Mexico, all carrying and transmitting signals between each other, hopscotching back to mainland China. That's how satellites work. That's how anybody with a walkie-talkie can do the same thing, right? When you look at that balloon, all of those capabilities were very likely encased in that one spy balloon.
Have you heard about, do you know anything about quantum entanglement by chance?
I know a little bit. I don't know it on a scientific level, but I know the concept.
Do you know that the Chinese are claiming to be able to communicate with their satellites by using quantum entanglement? You don't believe it? I have yet to know, I have yet to hear about anybody being able to actually replicate or measure the effectiveness of their own quantum entanglement. I think that they've proven that quantum entanglement can happen. I don't know that anyone's been able to measure or control it. Okay. For the audience, I'll run through it, and I'm not a physicist.
I'm not either, man. So we're speaking the same language.
So I'll break it down best I can. So quantum entanglement is basically saying that all particles, atoms are connected one way or another through a field of energy.
Right.
And if you split an atom and you manipulate one half of the atom, no matter where in space the other half of the atom is, it will replicate what you're doing to this part of the atom. So if you were to put, and from what I've read, and there's some great articles on space.com that I've read, there's a lot of different articles talking about this, but there is no distance that it doesn't matter the distance. Mm-hmm. You can manipulate this half of the particle, and this half of the particle is going to replicate exactly what that one does through all of the connectedness of these of particles. And so if you put something, say, like Morse code on this atom, on this half, then this half is gonna replicate that, and there's nothing that could intercept these communications. And so that's another thing I heard is, I'm sure we were jamming. I'm sure we were jamming the transmissions. Yeah, I know we jam things, and I mean, we both spent a lot of time overseas. I'm sure you've seen a lot of it too. Jammers don't even work all the time, and so if they had the capability of quantum entanglement communications, we have no idea what they collected and what got transmitted back to China.
Right. I mean, even without quantum entanglement, depending on the frequency, the encryption techniques, how we classified the balloon, we may still have no idea what they were transmitting. Mm-hmm. They may have been transmitting in the open, and if we weren't intentionally trying to intercept that balloon's transmission, they could have sent an open signal, like a ham radio signal, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't have been able to collect it, right? Because if it's not something we're listening to or looking for, we're not going to get it.
Yeah.
So you bring up a really good point. I don't know enough about quantum entanglement and Chinese capabilities to speak to that, but we did just yesterday, the U.S. State Department released a report confirming that of the 41 technologies that that have been deemed as critical next generation technologies, I think that's what it was, 41 technologies, China is ahead of the United States in 33 of the 41 technologies. And on that list was advanced communication, artificial intelligence, hypersonic missiles, next generation drones, like a huge list where we are being trounced by Chinese investment and Chinese discoveries in these advanced tech. So I think that just further corroborates what you were just talking about with the potentiality of Chinese using quantum entanglement as some sort of communication tool.
Hey everybody, I'm Shawn Ryan. Click here to subscribe to the Shawn Ryan Show YouTube channel for the hottest and most compelling interviews that you will not see anywhere else. I've also made a playlist of all the previous SRS episodes so they're easy to find. You can find that right here.